This is not a video about what might have been. It is a video about what nearly was. Germany did not lose the Second World War because Allied victory was inevitable. It did not lose because the outcome was predetermined before the first shot was fired. It lost because of three specific decisions made at three specific moments, each of which, the historical record shows, was opposed by professional military officers at the time it was taken and overruled by one man. I want to be precise about something before we begin. I am not arguing that a German victory would have been desirable. A Nazi-dominated Europe would have been a catastrophe for humanity. I am arguing something narrower, that the outcome was not inevitable, and that understanding why is essential to understanding how the war was actually decided. Each of these three decisions was opposed by Germany's own generals at the time. Each was overruled, and each, the evidence shows, was wrong. By 24th May 1940, Germany had achieved something its own planners had not expected in this time frame. In 14 days, German armored forces had crossed Belgium, passed through the Ardennes, a route French High Command considered impassable for armor, and reached the Channel coast. The British Expeditionary Force, 330,000 men, the entire professional British Army, was squeezed into a shrinking perimeter around the port of Dunkirk. German Panzer spearheads were 25 kilometers from the port. The road was open. There was nothing between the Panzers and the beach. On May 24th, Hitler issued the halt order. Armored forces were to stop their advance and hold position. The destruction of the Allied army was assigned to the Luftwaffe, whose commander, Hermann Göring, had personally lobbied for the assignment. The reasons historians still debate: Göring's insistence, concerns from some commanders that the Panzers were overextended after the rapid advance, and likely a political calculation, that leaving the British a route of escape might facilitate later peace negotiations. The Luftwaffe failed. Over 9 days, in an operation the British called Dynamo, 338,000 Allied soldiers were evacuated to England. The army that would fight in North Africa, in Italy, and on the beaches of Normandy 4 years later, was saved. General Guderian wrote, "We were stopped by an order I could not understand. The chance was lost, and with it, the realistic prospect of a negotiated British exit from the war. If the BEF had been destroyed, Britain's capacity to continue the war, militarily and politically, would have been fundamentally compromised." Churchill's position, secured by the narrowest of majorities in May 1940, might not have survived the annihilation of the entire British army. The halt order was not a military necessity, it was a choice. The generals who opposed it were right. By late August 1940, the Battle of Britain had been raging for 2 months. The Luftwaffe was targeting the operational infrastructure of RAF Fighter Command, airfields, radar stations, and sector control centers. Air Chief Marshal Hugh Dowding had a system that was straining. Experienced pilots were being lost faster than replacements arrived. The airfields were bombed repeatedly. The sectors of 11 Group were operating at the edge of collapse. The German plan was working. And then, on September 7th, 1940, the Luftwaffe changed target from airfields and radar stations to London. The reason was retaliation. On August 25th, RAF Bomber Command had accidentally bombed Berlin, and Hitler, furious, ordered a response on London. From a military perspective, this was a gift to Fighter Command. Airfields that were about to be crushed got time to rebuild. Pilots got rest. Sector control centers got a chance to reorganize, and the chain-home radar stations remained operational. Luftwaffe generals, Kesselring, Sperle, protested. They argued that attacking London before destroying Fighter Command was a strategic error. They were overruled. The result, the RAF survived. Operation Seelowe, the invasion of Britain, was cancelled. A second political decision altered the course of the war. Operation Barbarossa was the largest military operation in human history. 3 million Axis soldiers crossed the border. Its success rested on a single critical assumption: that the Soviet Union would collapse within 8 to 12 weeks. That assumption was challenged repeatedly by German generals during planning, and the invasion proceeded anyway. General Friedrich Paulus, later commander of the 6th Army at Stalingrad, conducted Barbarossa war games in December 1940. His conclusions were alarming. German supply lines would break down beyond the Dnieper. The Wehrmacht lacked the resources for a campaign lasting longer than 12 weeks, and Soviet mobilization capacity was dramatically underestimated. Paulus's report reached Hitler. It was ignored. General Franz Halder wrote, "The Führer assumes Russia will collapse after the first blow. There is no plan B. We are assuming the enemy is weaker than he is." The invasion was not a miscalculation. It was a decision made in full awareness that the professional military assessment said it was reckless. The Soviet Union did not collapse. It fought. And Britain now had the most powerful ally in the world. Germany was fighting a war on two fronts. Exactly the scenario German military planning had spent decades trying to avoid. The First World War had been lost on two fronts. Now, Hitler had recreated it. The Eastern Front devoured German manpower on a scale that made Western campaigns look like preliminaries. 4 out of 5 German soldiers who died in the East. 3 decisions, 3 moments, 1 pattern. At Dunkirk, a political choice saved 338,000 soldiers who returned to Normandy 4 years later. Over London, a choice driven by revenge gave the RAF time to rebuild. In Russia, an invasion based on assumptions the General Staff considered unrealistic. The common thread is that in every case, professional military officers argued against them. Ideological conviction overruled professional military judgment. It lost because the decision-making system at the top was fundamentally broken, where one man's instincts consistently overrode collective judgment. History is not a story of inevitabilities. It is a story of choices. And the choices made in Berlin between 1940 and 1941 shaped the outcome of the conflict. The point of understanding this is not to rewrite history, it is to learn from it. Ignoring professional advice for instinct and ideology is a human error. Iron Archives. We dig into the history textbook skip. Subscribe. The archive is open. Next episode, Hermann Göring, the man who promised victory and became the architect of defeat. Episode 8. See you then.